And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. So today's video, we're going to react to Kwame Brown talking about the whole load management thing. And this is coming from the Swish Cultures channel. But, you know, today's modern NBA, we always hear about the bigger, stronger, faster. But somehow bigger, stronger, faster needs more rest than ever. Somehow bigger, stronger, faster isn't translating into more consistency from players. And somehow bigger, stronger, faster plus load management is not translating to players who can play 82 games. And somehow bigger, stronger, faster plus load management isn't translating to players who are not getting injured as often. And so, you know, it leads one to think so many things. It's like, first of all, you know, how bigger, stronger, faster could these players really be if even with load management, they're not playing 82 games, they're not getting injured less? It leads you to believe if load management isn't actually cutting back on the injuries, why do they keep doing it? You know, it's just so many questions through these narratives that they push. But we all know the reason it happens is because this is what happens when you push narratives that aren't true, is that inevitably not only will the narratives themselves eventually become contradictory, but also the results of what you say will contradict your narratives as well. So without further ado, let's get into this clip.
What's the difference physically that guys were able to do so much to their bodies and have so much longevity? And nowadays we load managing. We're load managing kids. I mean, we're playing summer leagues. We're taking games off. Kids are playing AAU tournaments and they're having injuries. What's the people and what they can sustain?
They don't play basketball no more. Most of these guys are good at working out. They get the best trainers, they get the best medicine, and they just work out. We used to play basketball all day. We going up and down. You know, you be true to the game, it's true to you. These guys are like boxers that don't spar. You can look good hitting the bag, you can look good hitting the mitts, but you got to get in there. You got to rough it up. And so that's why a lot of these guys they're just workout players. Like, these guys don't know how to play the game for the joy of the game. They just play for the numbers. They changed the game up for individuals. When I played, we went to the hot hand. That's why you would see a Corliss Williams come off the bench and they giving them the ball every play and he punishing you. And they played like that every night, a consistency. This guy's gonna get a touch, this guy's gonna get a touch. But in this generation, the superstars can shoot the ball from anywhere. They can step back and fall out of bounds and kick a baby. And these are good shots because they're superstars.
All right. So one of the things that immediately stood out to me that Kwame Brown said, he said, these guys are like boxers that don't spar. These guys are like boxers who don't spar. I believe anybody out there who's familiar with or who has any kind of career that requires performance, any kind of career where you have to perform, you know that you can practice things that will help you in that performance, but there is no substitute for the performance itself. In other words, the only way to get better at performing is to perform. Like I said, myself, I'm a musician. And as a musician, there are several things that you do to prepare, you know, depending on what you do. But, you know, there's the fundamentals of whatever it is that you have to work on. You know, you have to know your scales. You have to know harmony. You have to know theory. You have to know all these things. But even knowing all of these things, there is nothing that can substitute for actually being on the stage performing with other musicians. And so this is what Kwame Brown is talking about. These players today, we all know, like, they don't scrimmage, you know, in practice. Most of it is self-work. You know, they're shooting threes, they're working out. You know, in the case of LeBron James, they may be they may have some alternative means of working out or additive means of working out. But yeah, they do all these things that work on their individual skills. But there is no substitute for playing the game of basketball. Shout out to Sports and Fitness Rants on there. If you guys have ever watched any of his actual fitness videos, he talks about functional strength on there. And functional strength, I'm gonna just read a quick definition. It says functional training is a classification of exercise which involves training the body for the activities performed in daily life. And to me, there's no better way to train for running than running. In other words, you can go in the weight room, you can work out your legs, you can do all these different weight training things that work the different muscles in your legs, but nothing that you do will ever substitute for you actually getting out there and running. And I believe this is why, despite this load management, we see so many players get injured, because there is no substitute for actually playing the game of basketball. There's no substitute for scrimmaging in practice, for building that endurance, for using those muscles that you actually use in the game, which is impossible to train your muscles in a way. You can train your muscles in a way that will aid you in the game, but there is no substitute for actually playing the game. In other words, if you have someone who's playing basketball 7 days a week against someone who's training their muscles 5 days a week, but they only play actual games 2 days a week, I guarantee you the person who plays basketball 7 days a week, they're going to be in much better shape for basketball. I can attest to this. Like I said, if you grew up in the 90s during the Michael Jordan era, during the golden era, during the era of basketball, when more basketball than ever was being played because Michael Jordan inspired everyone to play basketball. If you grew up during that era and you knew how full the courts were, like I said over and over again on this channel, every court in the city was full of ballers every day. Didn't matter if it was an inside court or outside court. So me, myself, like I said, you know, I played about 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, you know, for years. And I can tell you right now, like when I was consistently playing 5 or 6 days a week, you know, even if I was tired, like my actual muscles and ability on the court, they stayed much more consistent than, you know, sometimes where maybe I go a month stretch only playing 2 to 3 days a week. I could tell a difference. Like when I was playing 5 or 6 days a week, like it kept me in better shape to play basketball. It doesn't matter if, you know, if I was playing 2 to 3 days a week and I was working out or doing some other activities on other days, that didn't matter, because there is no substitute for playing the game of basketball. Playing the game of basketball is how you build up the muscles and the facility to play basketball consistently. And like I said, I believe this is why players in the past were able to play 82 games. This is why the current players aren't able to play 82 games. Despite load management, they still get injured. This is the only explanation, because they're not really built. They don't have the same kind of functional conditioning that the players of the past had, because they were actually playing more 5-on-5 basketball, not just working on their individual skills. And I will also say this. I think another thing that happens when you're not playing basketball as much, when you're not playing 5-on-5 basketball as much, that your IQ cannot be as good. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just have to go ahead and say this. You know, we talk about LeBron James overrated IQ all the time. You know, to me, LeBron James, his IQ has been completely blown out of proportion. It's just ridiculous. But if I'm being honest, I don't think it's just LeBron James. I think the IQ of this generation of players in general is highly overrated. And I think players of the past had much better IQ simply because they were playing more basketball, more 5-on-5 basketball. Again, there is no substitute for that. Whether you're talking about building the muscle and endurance to play the game, or whether you're talking about gaining that knowledge of the game. Like, the more games you play, especially when you're passionate about it, because that's a topic for a different video, you know, is that these players just don't have the same passion. But when you're playing basketball, like I said, when you're scrimmaging more, when you're just playing more 5-on-5 basketball and you're passionate about it, meaning you care about what's happening on the court, you naturally develop a higher IQ, because each time you play, you're learning something new. You're learning how to read screens better. You're learning how to see the double team coming better. And not to switch gears, but to me, I just did a video on Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant because of the big thing they had at Gil's Arena, you know, discussing it, the big blow up. But that's another thing, again, to me, the difference between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant is Michael Jordan, it seemed like he just saw the double team coming much quicker than anybody else. So not only would he see it coming quicker, but he was so quick that he was able to escape it. So again, a lot of this stuff that they talk about with the Kobe being more skilled has to be because he's less skilled in other areas. Like, he's less skilled at reading the defense than Michael Jordan is. So he has to have more counter moves and whatnot. But anyway, like I was saying, to me, when you are not playing 5-on-5 basketball on a regular basis, you are not developing that IQ the same way, which is why a lot of these players just don't live up to their potential. Like, they have a lot of natural skill. They have a lot of, and when I say natural skill, is they came up in a time where they have more to draw from. You know, they have the Michael Jordans to draw from. They have the Kobe Bryants to draw from. They have the Allen Iversons and the Tracy McGrady's and the Vince Carters and, you know, and those type of people to draw from. You know, that this is who they grew up watching. So they grew up watching these players who had the flash, basically. You know, these were the players, to me, who came after the generation of players who came after Michael Jordan was more built on flash, I would say, with the exception of Kobe Bryant. It's like, because again, Michael Jordan, I think a lot of basketball players were mesmerized by the aesthetic of his game, by how it looked, and it was, you know, a beautiful game to watch. But again, to me, if you really watch Michael Jordan, the only flashy things he does is the layups and the dunking. That's the flash. But everything else is just super fundamentals. You know, it's just super solid on the fundamentals. But yeah, all these players who came up after Michael Jordan who had the flash, and so these current players that we're watching today, you know, they grew up watching the players who were built on the flash. But the flash is not IQ. The flash doesn't mean you have high IQ. So it's like, because these players can do some flashy things, everybody's running around saying, oh, they're more skilled, and oh, they have such high IQ. And it's like, no. If you watch number one, the game itself today doesn't even lend itself for high IQ basketball, just because how great of IQ can you have when every team is playing the same way? When every player is playing the same way. Again, this is why I say modern day basketball, there's no uniqueness between teams and players like it used to be. You know, everyone is playing the same brand of basketball. It doesn't matter if even on the East Coast and West Coast. You know, I feel like back in the day, there used to be kind of a distinct difference between East Coast teams and West Coast teams. You know, I would kind of classify the West Coast teams is more the shooters, the smoother style of basketball, whereas East Coast teams back in the day were more the gritty kind of teams. But nowadays, everybody plays the same way. So again, it's like, how much IQ can you really have when everybody's playing the same way? When all the teams are playing the same way and all the players are playing the same way. But anyway, we gonna hold up here. Like I said, I just thought this was an interesting point that Kwame Brown made about, you know, you actually have to play the game. Playing the game is, again, doing this individual work. That's no substitute for playing the game. And I thought Kwame Brown made a perfect analogy by saying, you know, it's like a boxer who doesn't spar. It's like you working on your speed on the speed bag and hitting the heavy bag and hitting weights, but you never spar. And again, there's no substitute for actually being in the ring and working on your skills within the ring. So, and it's the same with basketball or any sport. To me, there is no substitute for actually performing. You can go and do all the workouts you want to, LeBron James, but in the end of the day, this is why you've been inconsistent. This is why you have 6 finals losses, because there is no substitute for actually playing basketball as much as possible. Like, you know, but anyway, we gonna hold up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What did you think about Kwame Brown and what he had to say about why players today don't seem as durable as the players of the past? Do you agree? Do you think that in order to build true endurance for the game, you have to play the game as much as possible? That you cannot simply work on your individual skills and expect that to translate, especially, again, if we're talking about building the functional strength and endurance to play a 82-game season. You cannot do that by just simply working on your own individual skills. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.